fun. I'm finally out for a ride. I don't think I even, yeah, we rode it this weekend. We took the bike down to see my son Saturday evening. And we took a ride down to San Marcos, all the back roads. And it took us an hour and a half to get there, but I took him and his girlfriend out for dinner and had to deliver some stuff to him. But so I didn't record it, but because my wife was with me. And you know what, I have trouble. I didn't realize I had the GoPro in the tour pack, and I had the Cenepack on. And when I have the Cenepack on, we can't. My wife and I cannot sync our Cenas. So I thought about it, and I got in there and I shut it off, and then we resynced our Cenas, and it worked fine. But apparently with this GoPro pack, it's really hard to link these Sena 10s that we have. But anyway, out for a cruise. Thought I'd I think last time I talked about how I met my wife. This time I guess I don't really know anything but myself, so I'll talk about myself a little bit. Grew up in the Midwest. My wife and I are both from Streator, Illinois, and grew up there the entire time, and worked at a steel mill making steel tubing. But anyway, my wife and I were married in 1981, and I was still working at the steel mill, and she was working at a bank. And I didn't go to college right after high school. I was never a good student in high school. I didn't even try. But anyway, I was working at the steel mill, and I worked there for like 5 years. And I remember one time I got laid off. You know, just slow time, so they lay people off. And I actually got laid off, so I decided to take a class over at the community college. Probably about 25, 30 miles away. And I took an evening course. I think, gosh, this was a long time ago. This was 1980. 83 maybe, and anyway, took a computer course, and I think it was Introduction to Computers, and talked about, you know, back in the old days they had those, you know, punch cards and everything. And believe it or not, even when I had computers back then, they were Commodores and they had tape drives. So there was no Windows operating system when I went to school, and then when I went to high school there were no computers. Just typewriters. But anyway, took a course. I loved it, got an A, and geez, not too long after that I think I even got called back to work and kept working full time. And I think because of it was a steel mill. It was filthy dirty work, and I was filthy dirty from head to toe, greasy every day. I don't know if they got this other road closed. And anyway, got called back. I worked for a while, and I started looking. You know, I ran these, they called them the pickle tanks, where you dip steel tubing in a whole bunch of chemicals, and you, what the heck? And you get it ready to pull through these benches and shrink tube. You can make a big tubing like 3 inches around into a pencil lead, you know, the size of a pencil lead. Anyway, that's what I did. And I was standing back there, and you had to leave some of the tubes and these chemicals for a couple minutes. So I'm standing there, you know, I'm just out of high school. I think I started there when I was 18 or 19, and I was, gosh, 20, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And I'm looking up the factory floor, and I see all these guys that have been there forever. They're old guys, and they're still doing the same thing. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't want to be them. You know, I don't want to do this my entire life. My body couldn't do it after you get old. But anyway, so I went home and talked to my wife, and geez, got one hell of a Yui here. When I went home, talked to my wife, and I said, "What do you think?" You know, we were young. I was probably 22. She was, I don't know, 3 years younger than me, so 19, 21, 20, 20, 19. I was 23. She was probably 21. Anyway, I said, "What do you think about, you know, we living in our own place and married?" And I go, "What do you think about me going to school full time? You know, because I just didn't want to do this factory stuff my entire life." And she goes, "Yeah, go for it." What the hell? You can't even get on the road. Anyway, so that's when I started going to school full time. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. So believe it or not, I took electronic technology, and oh my God, it was, you know, when I was in high school, I had one math class. When I was a freshman, I was probably 9th grade, and all we had to do was add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And then I get into college, and you know, electronics is all math, all formulas, but we had to take, I never even had algebra in high school. I didn't know what the hell A plus B times C and all that crap. I didn't know what that meant. My wife did. But anyway, I get to college and I had calculus, physics, trigonometry, and then all the electronics courses were all math, of course. God, I can't believe I got to go 5 miles around that intersection. And anyway, that's how I went to school full time, and oh my gosh, it was a struggle, and I just I can't believe I graduated. You know, especially not knowing what I didn't know when I went in. I mean, it was really, the math was really hard. And believe it or not, I took a programming class. I think I had to take it the second time because I had to let something go. I had 17 credit hours, and I couldn't handle it, so I had to let one class go, and I took it over in the summer, and I aced it. And that's really what I should have done, was the programming. I mean, all I had was basic programming, but it was fun, you know, and I still enjoy that kind of stuff to this day. But anyway, that's how I ended up in Texas. After I graduated, I looked all over Chicago, sent resumes everywhere. You know, back then there was no internet, so you couldn't just email your resume. You had to do it the old-fashioned way with letters and stamps. Oh, anyway, that programming class, when I took it, we had Commodore 64s. And it actually had tape drives, and it was just kind of, I guess it was some kind of a DOS. It wasn't, no operating system whatsoever. But anyway, that's how I ended up in Texas. I graduated with a degree in electronics, looked all over Chicago. It was a depressed area. Had a buddy in here in College Station. So he told me, well, come down here and look. So I went over there, drove down to College Station by myself, looked around there for a week, didn't really find anything, ventured over to Austin area. And on my very last day, I'd walk into these companies and I say, hey, I'm only here for, you know, a couple days. I want to drop off a resume. Can I speak to anyone about getting a job? And I did that enough to where a company in Round Rock called Tellabs, I used to work for them, they actually hired me. And I felt really good when I left there. And that was my very last day, so I actually drove all the way home, and they called me, like, gosh, I got home on the weekend. They called me on Monday and offered me the job. So wife and I packed up, packed everything we had, rented a little bit of U-Haul trailer, and I had a little tiny Nissan pickup truck that I pulled it with, and we headed to Texas on our own. I think I was 25 when I graduated, so we were young. Been here 30 years now. But anyway, that's how that went. Then I had a really awesome childhood, believe it or not. I grew up way out in the country. Only house out there. You couldn't even see the house across the street because it's just, I mean, grew up way out there. And my dad and I raced go-karts, which was so much fun. I mean, I started when I was really maybe 10 years old and raced all the way until I was like 17 or whatever, when I met my wife. And I didn't want to be gone all the time. We were gone all weekend long, and I met her, and I didn't want to, I wanted to see her, so that's when I actually kind of quit racing. But anyway, we raced all over the country. Did a lot of local racing, a local track in Utica, Illinois that I used to race there. We had karts we had 4 of them. I had 2, my dad had 2. But we raced locally, a lot of local Saturdays. And my dad could build an engine. God, we had McCullough engines, believe it or not. They were 100cc McCulloughs. I had a 125cc McCullough that was all chrome. That was awesome. And anyway, we raced there every week. And I would win so much. My dad would always, tell me, let somebody else win every now and then. I was probably a teenager by then. So I did. I mean, I was so fast and so fearless, I would just smoke pretty much everybody. So I a couple times I let this, I slowed down and I let these other kids go by me. Then I tailed them. I mean, I was right on their tails and I was making them drive. And I stayed on them and I let them win, but it was so funny and it was kind of cool. They were so excited that they come to me and say, "Oh man, Jim, that was an awesome race. It was so much fun. It was just awesome." And I'm just kind of letting them win. But anyway, when we didn't race local, up in the Midwest, there were a lot of street races, which was so cool. They'd block off parts of the towns, and they would hold races, and there were hundreds and hundreds of carts, people racing there all the time. And they'd block off the streets. You'd have hundreds of people sitting in their yards, on their lawn chairs, and they'd be watching you fly by. And I usually ran 2 classes the entire day. I'd run 100cc Reed Light and then 125cc. And I mean, I was fast and fearless. But I remember one time, one of these races, at the end of all the races, they do all the trophy presentations, and they'd announce your laps and your how many laps you went. And they got to me and they said, "Well, this can't be right. We got Jim Redmond 4 laps ahead of the second place guy, and they think it's got to be a mistake." And the second place guy spouted off. He goes, "No, I watched him go by me 4 times." So I thought that was pretty cool. And we were the people around the Midwest. We were the ones everybody was watching. Everybody knew they had to beat. And then one other time, my dad and this other guy had the kart shop up there. Now he's got his kids run. It's a big, huge track. But anyway, my dad and this other guy started designing their own karts. And they're racing cars. I think they used a Margay front end, and then they designed their own back end. And I was the guinea pig driver, but these things were awesome. I mean, I was smoking everybody with them. And anyway, we took these things to the Nationals in, I think it was somewhere in Georgia, Barnesville, Georgia. We went to the Nationals down there, and I was the only one driving. And the first qualifier, you line up how you signed in. So we got there late, and in my class, there were like 36 drivers. And they lined up 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So I was lined up 34. I think there were 2 other people behind me, the first qualifier. And I'm young, probably 145, 150 pounds. I was pretty light. I had to put weight on and everything to meet the weight. But I think we went 10 laps, and in 10 laps I was up in the top 10, which was incredible. And then after that race, I mean, there were factory drivers, sponsored drivers. Everybody was there. It was a big deal. And after the race, people were coming up to our pit area and say, "Who is this kid?" I heard them talking about, "Who the hell is this kid? You know, who is this kid? I'm just, you know, if I'd have started the second race, I'd have been in the top 10. I'd have won. I know I would have won because I could beat all these guys." And anyway, didn't even get to the second race. I mean, here's my thinking. Everybody, all these factory people, all these big-time racers that were, you know, in it to win it, in it to, you know, go to the next level, the next bigger level. And we go to fire up for the second race, and my engine wouldn't even pop, would not fire. So I don't know what someone did, if we left our pit alone and someone got in there and said, you know, we're going to stop this unknown kid from coming in here. I'm kind of thinking that's what happened. I'm not sure, but pretty much started raining after that, so we packed up and left. You know, so hindsight, that could have been a really big shot for me, and people knew that. And I'm thinking they kind of screwed with something. Maybe, I don't know if they put something underneath the spark plug cap so you wouldn't get any spark. I guess I don't remember checking because it's been so long ago. But anyway, I continued to race all around the my wife even went, well, she was my girlfriend at the time, but she even went with us a couple times. She hated it. But I can remember one street race I was at. They'd set up hay bales, and they'd slow you down, and that's how they would score you, because they didn't have transponders back then. They just had to, somebody had to sit there and read every number and then score you as you went by. And I was slowing down to go through these hay bales, and somebody behind me, their throttle stuck wide open, and they plowed in the back of me. Next thing I know, I'm watching asphalt fly by my face. I'm going backwards, sliding on the asphalt, going backwards, and I didn't have a full face helmet on. I just had one of those shields, and I could see the asphalt just sliding by me. And I was wearing leather pants or a leather jacket, and probably not leather, so I'm sure it was vinyl, and jeans, and I never got hurt. But I remember I'm still kind of sliding, and all of a sudden I feel somebody grab me, pick me up by the shoulders, and goes, "You okay?" It was my dad. And somebody else was there flipping my cart back over, and I go, "Yeah," and he threw me back in it and said, "Go." But anyway, I think I pretty much won every one of those street races all over the Midwest that we went to. One other really cool track that we drove in Wisconsin, it was some kind of a big driver's ed course. It was elevation changes, uphill, downhill, and it was the funnest place to race, and it had a downhill. And at that time, I had a kart with four-wheel disc brakes. It had one disc brake on the back axle, but each front wheel had independent disc brakes. And I had my 125 on there, and man, when you got that RPM to a certain level, it would just like kick into a power band and just fly. But anyway, I would go into this corner, and I'd be passing everybody going into these corners because they were slowing down, and they see me go right by them. And I'm thinking, what the hell? But I had these brakes that I could just go into that corner hard, and I'd be passing all these guys slowing down, driving like wimps into these corners, and I'd be passing them. Anyway, those are some of the best memories of my entire life, was actually racing karts, you know, all around the country. It was so much fun. My dad got into the enduros. I did it once. I didn't like it because you're laying down flat on your back. You're completely laying down, and your neck is up on this pad on the back of your helmet, and you're going like 120 miles an hour, and all of a sudden, boom! You turn right. And I didn't mind doing that, but I want to sit up. So I did that once, and I didn't really care for it. So I'd run the sprints, which you're sitting up, and he always ran the enduros. Then after I quit racing, he actually went all over the country racing the enduros. He'd go to Daytona, Poconos, and everywhere, and he'd be running those enduros. Anyway, I guess my ride's getting a little long. I'm getting a little winded, so I'll turn it off for now. Thanks for listening. Bye.